Welcome back, everyone. Glad you could join me here today. Training Thursdays. Today is the day that we talk about why it's so important, whether it be the new year or not, that you are embarking on a program that's going to allow you to maintain a healthy body weight. And that is because there is more research coming out that one of the worst viruses we've seen in some time is actually disproportionately affecting people with extra body fat. That means beyond normal body fat. We're not talking about a normal BMI of 19 to 24.9. And we'll get into that in a moment. I've got free BMI calculators, body fat percentage calculators for you, the works. But what I want to share with you is this is a really important topic because it's also being misinterpreted. So I want to get a little bit deeper into this and just be able to share with people why losing weight and maintaining a healthy body weight has nothing to do with vanity. It only has to do with vanity if you choose to look at it from a vanity-based standpoint. Myself, or really any other practitioner out there, should never be telling someone you need to lose weight because you need to look a certain way. That is by far and away what I don't think any of us are recommending or even care about whatsoever. What we care about is helping people stay healthy. So again, myself and every other integrative health practitioner, it's about getting to a place that your body is strong enough in order to be able to stay balanced even in the outside external based threat, whether it can even be internal as well. So meaning like, okay, you've gone a day without eating. Can you stay balanced? Okay. Or you're outside and it's allergy season. Can you stay balanced, right? There's mold out there. There's all sorts of things out there. You're exposed to some mold in a hotel room. Can you stay balanced? Is your immune system strong enough? And we just have to look at all the different facets that go into this. And it's been a little bit misinterpreted, but also a lot of people are afraid to even say it. And again, I'm not afraid to say these things because I do it what I feel with the best of intentions. So a lot of people are afraid to say that the largest risk factor right now for mortality, which is death with COVID, is being obese. So being more than a 29 on the BMI scale. Okay, so more than a 29. And so when we look at that, we might say, well, how much more overweight that is? And it's difficult to say because there's a swing of like 30 to 40 pounds for each individual because it allows for different body types. So for example, and I've said this many times, you can be 5'8" and you can be at a healthy weight at 125 or 165. Like you really can. So you have to understand is that there's this swing in normal weights. And then even at 160, 165 at 5'8", it still doesn't make you obese. Like that's not the obesity. You'd need to go to up to a 29 plus on that BMI. So we're talking about another 30 pounds plus. So we're not talking about being 15, 20 pounds overweight. What I want to share with you is that there are unique body types. And I've discussed this before. In Ayurveda, they call them the doshas, the endomorph, the mesomorph, and the ectomorph. The endomorph is called the kapha in Ayurveda. The meso is called the pitta, and the ecto is called the vata. So the endomorph or kapha body type is just more prone to weight gain. They typically and oftentimes have maybe larger joint structures, a rounder face. They can't do as well with a higher carb-based diet. And all of these things are well known by many practitioners studying Ayurvedic medicine or integrative health practitioners. But what I want to share with you here today isn't necessarily about a specific diet. It's just about the understanding that I don't believe that there is one best body type, and especially working for a couple of decades now, I can tell you the grass is always greener for most people. I'll be speaking to ectomorphs and they want to be able to put on more muscle or have more curves. And then I'm talking to endomorphs and they want to be thinner and they want this, that. So again, the grass is always greener, right? That's just the way that it is. What I want to talk about here today, though, are the actual risk factors for being overweight. And we're talking about significantly overweight in this case, but you have to understand is it's a sliding scale and the scale gets progressively worse the more overweight you are. And now we have to also understand that if we're looking at the leading co-morbidities for risk factors for this particular virus, it's heart disease, it's high blood pressure, it's type 2 diabetes, and cancer is in there as well. Okay, well, if we look at it, obesity, being overweight, is actually a risk factor then leading to cardiovascular issues, blood pressure issues, type 2 diabetes, and cancer. So I just want you to understand is that we can debate back and forth whether cardiovascular is number one or obesity is number one, but a lot of the people who have the cardiovascular issues may also be overweight. So I just want to put that out there and give you the best that we have right now, but also kind of clean up a little bit of the science and a little bit of the misinterpretation around this. So the misinterpretation of the obesity being a leading comorbidity for this virus is correct. There's a little bit of a misunderstanding of why, though, it is a leading cause. A lot of people said it is because when you have more adipose tissue, your body is releasing more of a specific type of, it's called interleukin 6. So a specific type of a cytokine. But the problem is that we have to understand is that interleukin 6 on itself, by itself, is not dangerous. It's not something to be afraid of. And it's actually, in some ways, can act as an anti-inflammatory. So I just wanted to read you this and share where we've kind of gone astray and why too much adipose tissue, too much body fat, though they're the same thing, just different names, is egregious and does lead to all sorts of, again, if you're not worried about the virus, you should be worried about the cardiovascular risk, the blood pressure risk, the type 2 diabetes, and the many quality of life issues that come with being significantly overweight. And that includes lung-based issues, sometimes COPD, although I know that's connected mainly to smoking, but I just wanted to share that with you as well. So let me go over this right now. Interleukin 6 acts on body fat, adipose tissue, to increase leptin secretion, and it suppresses appetite. Okay, this is well studied, right? So what is it doing? It basically says, okay, when you have more body fat, your body's going to produce something called interleukin 6, and that's going to tell your body to burn more body fat and suppress your hunger hormones. You say, oh, that's a good thing, right? So I'm not going to eat as much, and I'm going to burn more body fat. Okay, perfect world. That's how it works. Interleukin 6 increases adipose tissue lipolysis, so it actually burns more body fat. Okay, so it's decreasing hunger hormone, and it is also burning more body fat. Fantastic. Which in turn promotes hepatic gluconeogenesis and hepatic insulin resistance. Okay, so what we're talking about here is the body's ability to properly use blood sugar, regulate insulin, tap into body fat. That's a perfect world. The problem is, this is where we go wrong. So in a perfect world, minus the virus, the body's producing interleukin 6 that can actually be inflammatory, which we'll talk in a moment, but it can also act as an acute anti-inflammatory when exposed to some type of pathogen or in the case of burning more body fat, okay? So it's not all bad. What happens now is when someone who is overweight has more body fat than they should, we're not talking about just 10, 20 pounds. That's not what I'm talking about, right? So I don't want to lump all of this together. I'm talking about 30, 40, 50 plus pounds extra body fat. Okay, that's really what I'm talking about. So now what happens is the body encounters a virus like COVID, and it starts to produce more interleukin 6. Well, here's what happens. Since adipose tissue has more receptor sites and the hypothalamus is going to increase the expression of interleukin 6, meaning like it's going to say, okay, we have a problem here. We're encountered a pathogen. We're going to try to fight it off. We're going to do our best. But now we have all of these extra receptor sites in someone that's much more overweight. So they're actually able to express and produce and receive and lock on to this interleukin 6. So interleukin 6 now does what? Well, now it runs rampant in the body. So inflammation begins to skyrocket systemically, the entire body. And then it begins to target what looks like the lungs or mitochondria or brain or other areas. But it only does so because there is so much free circulating interleukin 6 that has moved from an acute anti-inflammatory to now a pro-inflammatory. And we've seen this with autoimmune issues, et cetera. And it's not much different with this particular virus, meaning like we also know people with interleukin 6 autoimmune issues do much worse and fare much worse as well. So I'm going to read you just two specific studies, and then I'm going to link them up as well. Just showing you what happens. Several studies show the essential role of interleukin 6 to mount a proper immune response during some viral infections. Others link the cytokine with exacerbation of viral disease. These latter findings lend support to the hypothesis that upregulation of interleukin 6 during certain viral infections may promote virus survival and exacerbation of clinical disease. I'll stop there for a moment and break down what that science says. So basically, it's what's saying is that our immune system is going to use interleukin 6 to mount a defense against this virus. The problem is when we've heard about cytokine storms before, the inflammation begins to become overwhelming for the body. It is essentially unchecked inflammation. We can no longer regulate the amount of inflammation, which seems to be a lot of what people are ending up in the hospital with. The virus may or may not have already run its course, or it might be dying down, but now people are ending up in the hospital with massive inflammation of the lungs and systemically in their body, and they're not getting the treatment maybe that they need, or maybe that treatment's coming too late. So this is important, really is important to look at it, especially since there is a hypothesis that increases in interleukin 6, potentially from all of the extra body fat and receptor sites, is allowing for greater viral survival, which means replication. So let me give you the last part here as well. It says, moreover, in combination with the transforming growing factor beta, interleukin 6 induces the differentiation of naive CD4 into Th17 cells, which are important for the defense against pathogens at mucosal sites. Also, interleukin 6 synergic interactions with interleukin 7 and interleukin 15 induce the differentiation and cytolytic capacity for CD8 T cells. Importantly, interleukin 6 is a potent pyrogenic cytokine and has an essential role in organizing lymphocyte trafficking to lymphoid organs during febrile events. Okay, that was a mouthful, of course. Let me break it down, put this in normal talk. All right, so what happens is your interleukin actually allows for certain cells to be turned into other cells which are going to fight specific pathogens. So your body, you've heard me talk about Th1, Th2 immunity before. Well, there are many T helper cell forms of immunity. Th17 I've even spoken about before because it specifically eradicates, it works on mold, it works on yeast, it works on fungus in the body, and it can work on certain other types of pathogens as well. The interesting things is it said it's working on mucosal pathways. Think about it. That's the ear, nose, and throat, right? So the mucosa, all the way down the digestive tract, so digestive tract inflammation, as well as the lungs, right? So now we get more inflammation in the lungs. But then there is what's called differentiation and cytolytic capacity for CD8 cells. Well, CD8 cells literally cause tissue destruction in your body. Breaking down, destruction, apoptosis, which is organized and deliberate cell implosion, destruction of that cell. It was marked for death essentially by your body saying, hey, there's something wrong with this cell. It has a virus in it, it has bacteria in it, it's mutating to cancer, etc. Your body has this amazing ability to mark that cell with a CD8 cell and have it self-destruct when everything's going well. Well, think about that. This also happens in rheumatoid arthritis. If that is unchecked and it continues to go on, you've got all this cellular destruction. Well, what does that mean? Well, that means you have a lot of cellular cleanup and you have a ton of inflammation in your body. So again, this is causing this cytokine storm. And the last part it said was the essential role organizing lymphocyte trafficking to lymphoid organs. Okay, well, what that means is that you've got more lymphatic tissue. And I've talked about this before with rebounding and dry brushing, etc. You have more lymphatic fluid in your body. It's at least 4x the amount of blood. That's how much lymphatic fluid you have, about 3 millimeters under your skin, flows through the whole body. And it's what helps white blood cells and everything start to clean up dis-ease in the body. You've got your most famous lymph nodes are right here under your neck, right? But you have lymph nodes over the entire body. Lymph nodes here, under the armpit, in the groin, behind the knees, etc. Those are major lymph sites. And that is what a lot of the cleanup, that's where the pathogens and the white blood cells go to for basically breaking down and removal from the body. But what happens if it's happening at almost like a tsunami rate that you can't keep up? It's a problem. Again, you get backed up lymphocytes, backed up lymphatic fluid, and inflammation in the body. So let's pull this for a full circle now. So if you are more overweight than you should be, and again, I'm not talking about 10 or 20 pounds. I'm not talking about vanity standpoint. I'm talking about more like at minimum 30, but I'm really talking about 40, 50 pounds overweight, you're putting yourself at just greater risk. And again, this is not coming down on you whatsoever, because we work with people all the time that have tried diets, that have tried exercise and hasn't worked. But remember, there's always an answer why. It can be high cortisol, it can be low thyroid, low vitamin D, high estrogen, it can be dysregulated blood sugar. So there's always a reason why. Don't get me wrong. I understand it's not always easy. It's not always straightforward. But what I'm saying is you're at a greater risk when you are a minimum of 30, but really 40, 50 pounds overweight. That allows for more inflammation in your body. The greater amount of inflammation can lead to maybe it's cholesterol, cardiovascular issues, could be blood pressure issues, could be type 2 diabetes, it could be cancer, it could be all sorts of issues. I mean, the kidneys don't work as well, the lungs don't work as well. Think about there's more compression on your body. Think about wearing a 40, 50 pound weight vest. It's just more difficult on the joints, it's more difficult in the body. So what I'm saying to you is this, there's risk factors for those, and then all of those are also risk factors for COVID and this virus in terms of mortality. But now we know just the increase in adipose tissue alone is going to lead to more inflammation, and that the greater amounts of inflammation eventually can become unchecked in a particular pathogen like this. So again, I'm not someone that ever tells you that this virus isn't real or any of the different mutations aren't real. We don't know what a mutation 2 months, 3 months from now will be, but what we do know is we know the risk factors, okay? We know the people most at risk. 79 to 81 years old, average age, right? We know that there are 4 leading causes or 5 leading causes are obesity, cardiovascular, blood pressure, type 2 diabetes, and cancer. There are always outliers. Don't get me wrong. I understand that, but we also know the people most at risk. So my job is to simply present to you the information and then hopefully enable people to lose that weight if they choose to, the healthy way, so they can also keep it off and so they don't have to be so frustrated. So I'm going to keep it at that for today. I've got lots of shows on how to take the weight off a safe way, a scientific way. But I wanted to present this to you because it's kind of being misinterpreted. So I just wanted to break it down as simply as I could and make sense of all of this. So if this was helpful, of course, please do feel free to share it with anyone you believe it could serve. And I'd be happy to answer any additional follow-ups in the comments. All right, take care, everyone. Have a great day.